as I view it, this body is elected to oversee not only the finances, but provide services for Webster County. In order to provide services, obviously, you have to have the money to run the engine. And so as we have looked last year at the budget, you will recall that we initiated a 10% reduction in the gross budget, and each department had to struggle through that. Some departments, it's far more difficult than other departments. Obviously, if you have a $3 million department or a $5 million department and you have a $500,000 department, most difficult to whack out $50,000 on one, a lot easier on the other one. So consequently, that in and of itself doesn't provide maybe an even playing field, yet there are various services for the county that are essential, and almost all, in one way or another, are essential. It's essential, for example, that we get to work on the roads. It's essential that I get a marriage certificate from, let me rephrase that. Years ago, it was essential that I got a marriage certificate, okay? So consequently, you can't draw the line and say we can do without this one and without that one, but we have to have this one. But to a degree, we have to have the services of all. At least I see it that way. I'm going to get to the point here in a minute. To some extent, hopefully, and to provide that there's no lack of confidence here, this board has looked and spent some agonizing times looking at what we could and couldn't do. And to that end, in summarizing the situation, we were hopeful that we would have $300,000 to $400,000 of balance in the general basic fund. And it's no secret that that's the fund that creates the problems, by and large. So we look hard at that fund, and we look at supplemental, but more so at general basic. And apparently we're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000. And it varies right now because we don't have the final figures in terms of what our bottom line income is. We know pretty much what our expenditures are. So, in looking at those expenditures and the various raises and so forth and so on, it is true that we asked everybody to hold their line in terms of salary increases. And I'm pleased to report that the majority or a variety of various groups did attempt to do that. There are other groups that did not, for one reason or another. And so, to that end, we feel as if we have to make some changes to the appropriations for the upcoming year. So, with that, I guess I'll stop for the time being and reserve the right to come back in and visit more. But does that set the stage, or is that what you would like, Mr. Chairman? Yes. We're all very concerned. We have to do something, there's no doubt about it. And also realize that if you have a department that has a $50,000 increase in salaries, unfortunately, that increase continues year after year after year after year. It is not fair whether you talk about this board, and we don't take any increase, haven't taken any increase, and have tried our level best to contain our expenses here. But it's not fair to the department heads, to their deputies, or to other employees, including the clerks, to continue over a 10-year period, for example, of not having increases, because we jolly well know that there are going to be some inflationary increases, not to mention other expenses that might go up. So, be that as it may, this situation must change. Whether, if we continue to have less and less income, then eventually we have to show some way or another that we're going to have fewer and fewer services. And that ultimately means, because we've got 70 to 80% in salaries, where are you going to go? And as I've said many times before, you can only cut so many paper clips, and then we have to look at that. We're not there yet, but we're getting dangerously close, and we do have to make some changes. That's all.
discussed it here, I think this morning or yesterday, where we decide where we're gonna set some appropriations.
Well, you're not, I have my opinion.
You guys all have different opinions, so. What, Kim, you wanna start?
Well, first of all, I think we need to explain the budget versus the appropriations. Carol will correct me if I get off track, but our budget is something the supervisors work with and go through with all departments to use in order for us to set the levies for the year. The appropriations is actually the money that we give you come July 1st. At this point,